Okay. So. Let's see. So this is a documentary about Concorde and getting some research information for the documentary. So, some initial questions. What got you interested in boats in the first place? Why were you interested?
Well, when I came down here first, I had no knowledge of boats and very little interest. I liked the look of boats, but very much in the background. But once I saw the stretch of water that we have here in Milford Haven, I decided I'd got to have a boat. So I purchased a set of plans and some timber, and I built the first timber boat from a set of plans that I had purchased, and we used that for the summer, enjoyed it so much, but thought, well, with my drawing skills I could probably improve a little bit on that boat. So we then progressed to build another one, and we did this for 3 years, getting progressively better until I came across a person called Tony Oates, who was from the London Motorboat Racing Club, and he invited me up for one of the powerboat races at Lake Iver, and that was the beginning of Concorde, basically, because the designs were so different. And as I say, with my drawing skills, I went back and designed from the race boats that I had seen, with a few of my own ideas, and that was the beginning of Concorde.
Okay, so with the design, where did you start with that? How did you start to design it, and why was it designed the way it was?
Well, initially, and most of the boats of that era had a very upright bow, if you like. So my thoughts were that with that sort of design, as the boat accelerated, it pushed the nose up out of the water to get onto the plane, which of course was a very slow method of getting away. And my thoughts were that if the bow was raked to a shallow angle, then we would have better acceleration, and the boat would be faster. So this was one of the concepts that I employed, and incorporated with the first boat that we built, first Concorde rather, that we built. So it worked. It made the boat a lot quicker.
Okay, so let's talk about the name. Where did the name come from?
The name came from well, in fact, the initial one, the first one we built in timber, and we went back to the London Motorboat Racing Club at Lake Iver for the first race of the season, and there were monohulls there from all over Europe and all over the UK, and we had a series of 3 races during the afternoon, and we raced this boat. They wouldn't let me drive because I didn't have a national licence, but this friend that we'd come across, Tony Oates, he had such a licence, and of course he drove the boat. Initially in the first heat, the boat did very well, and it came 8th out of something in the region of 25 boats, so we were quite pleased with that. Then in the second race we improved and we came 3rd, but at the very end of that race there was a collision and it knocked a hole in our boat, and we had to drive the boat up the slipway to stop it from sinking. And then of course my wife Sonia went running around looking for something to patch the hole, got hold of an old Castrol sign, and we screwed that on and got it back in the water for the 3rd race, which we won. And on total aggregate we won the meeting, so we were absolutely delighted. And of course we realised then that the boat was a bit special.
Yeah.
So coming back to your question about the name Concorde, we took a fiberglass mould off this boat, and we, with a view then to turn out a number of them, and we had our own business then, of course, Dudley Marine, and we had plans to sell the boats within the business. And the first one we built, I can see it now, bright yellow, and it was lying in the backyard, and somebody came into the shop, I can't even remember who it was now, and he looked down and he said, "Cool," he said, "What's
wow.
that?" Yeah, wow, he said, "What's that?"
Concorde, he said.
What's that you got there? And of course the Concorde plane was just being tested and so on at the time, and that's where the name Concorde came from.
Okay.
Because it's the rake bow looked a bit like Concorde, and of course we named the boats Concorde and we developed from there.
Okay, brilliant. Going back to your input in the boats and the racing, so what was going through your mind when you were looking for something to patch the boat up on that day?
Well, we thought the racing was over for us really, because I mean there was nothing around anywhere, you know, you couldn't buy anything then, and we only had minutes. No, we had no tools, we had so
totally green.
Oh, panic. And I looked around everywhere, and then I found what do they
Castrol sign.
A wooden Castrol sign, and I thought, it's wood, yeah. So I ran back with this Castrol sign, and it was just the right size. Stuck it, and I said, "There you are," I said, "stick that on." And they did it, and we were away again.
Brilliant. Okay, so what do you think is the highlight of the racing career? With the Concorde?
The highlight of the racing career. There are many highlights actually, but it must be the one that the Bristol Grand Prix in the World Monohull Championships, and Jonathan Jones was driving, and we actually won the World Championship in that race. That has to be the highlight. But we've had so many.
And the trophy was big.
But we've had so many highlights that it would take an age to list them all.
Okay.
But that I think has to be the highlight.
Yes.
Are there any people or any things that inspired you, or is your source of your inspiration for the races and the design of the Concorde?
The source of inspiration was competition. There were many boat building in those days was a cottage industry, and there were many small boat builders around, and of course the competition was quite keen, and although our boats looked so much different to the others because of the rake bow and all this something and various other things that we had introduced, like a sort of a planing keel on the actual deep V hull. We had a small planing keel on the back end, which again improved the performance, and these were things that the others hadn't thought about. So they were, without appearing big-headed, but they were playing catch-up all the time. And of course they nicknamed our boats as paper darts and various other things, but they couldn't catch them. And again, because of the shape, there was one young lad from the Cardiff area actually. He was doing ski racing, and when he turned up with a Concorde on the first race, they laughed and they said, "What do you want that thing for?" And of course, by the end of the season, out of 15 races, he had 14 firsts and a third. So he totally obliterated the British Championships, as it was then, in ski racing with the paper dart.
Yeah.
So that's where we went off to Windermere then, didn't we?
Oh, we went to Windermere, yes. That was another highlight actually.
Yes.
A number of us went up to Windermere ourselves, and of course we had a few friends and other people actually racing the boats. And we went to Windermere and we were racing offshore circuit, as they called it then, which was class 4, and which was production boat racing. And out of the 5 classes, I think, wasn't it? We broke the records in 4. So we were British record holders in 4 out of the 5 races. Of course, we didn't have the 5th because we didn't have a boat big enough to do that one. But anyway, 4 out of the 5. So we were at the Lowood, which is sort of a fairly famous hotel in Windermere. And of course we had to go and we had 4 records. We bought 4 bottles of champagne. So, and of course everybody was there, and we didn't even have a glass of champagne.
No.
Everybody drank our champagne, but we were very pleased with what had happened, and of course the drivers in particular were delighted.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So it seems like other people's doubts have been sort of a negative impact. What made you think to just ignore them and carry on with your design and your racing? Despite
we knew what we had, didn't we? We knew we had something special.
Yes, it is. It was my conviction, if you like, that it was the way to go. And in actual fact, virtually all the boat builders and boat designers since then have come towards the shape that we had back in the 1960s and late 60s and early 70s. The shape now, the bow shape now, is rakish on most boats.
And of course you could buy any colour boat you liked as long as it was white.
Well, this was the production range that we had. In the old days, you could have any colour deck, but a white hull, and all the upholstery was black. We, again, because of my artistic background, we decided that, well, okay, fine, we'll change the colour of the boats and we'll colour match the interior.
Okay.
So this is, we were the first to do that.
So it's new and different.
And the boats looked totally different. And that was part of our success, I think, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We had to build the boats to the same colour as the cars. Oh dear, we had some special jobs,
that's right.
didn't we?
Some very special orders came in from people who were building boats like Sunseekers.
Oh, yes.
They then wanted us to colour match their boats with our little dinghies that went on the cabin roofs.
Yeah.
And we had many orders like that, which was fantastic. And you know, we had some special people building our upholstery, for example. Everything was absolutely spot on and colour coded to match the boat, and the boats looked very attractive. We've always said ourselves. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the risks. So what risks do you think that there were with pursuing the design and racing of the Concorde?
Like any competition, there are risks. And I didn't feel that the risks were any unsurmountable in any way.
No. We had the ballast and the buoyancy in the right places.
Yes, we did have a little problem in exporting the boats to Norway, wasn't it? And because as we built the boats, we had a polystyrene buoyancy between the actual floor and the deep V, and the other buoyancy was on the nose. And of course, the Norwegian rules said that if the boat turned over, the boat had to float horizontally. And of course I objected to this. I said, no, that's wrong. Because all our race boats had the buoyancy up the front, because if you turn the boat over, the back end would sink and therefore the driver would float out. If it was lying vertical, upside down, he could very well be trapped underneath. And with a life jacket, which of course was essential for racing, racing or for water skiing and pleasure, that driver would be pushed up and trapped under the boat. So anyway, after a few letters and a few phone calls, the Norwegian government changed their ruling to our ideas, because they saw sense. That was the sensible thing to do, because it didn't matter whether the engine was 6 inches or 6 foot underwater, it still got wet.
Yeah.
So it didn't make any difference at all, but it was a safety feature.
Yeah. There we go. Right. What do you think is the most difficult times during the
Well, the most difficult times had to be the recessions that
Yes, we
came
had two
along.
recessions, didn't we?
Two recessions, which we did wade through them, but in any leisure industry, and especially in the boating trade, if money becomes short or sort of a recession, the people that suffer at the bottom of the ladder, the normal production boats, the people who buy small boats and go out and do a bit of water skiing and so on, they are the ones that suffer, and they're the ones that don't buy in any recession. The people with money will always have money. So that was probably the biggest problem that we had.
Yes, that was tough. But we cut the cloth, didn't we?
Well, we made things work, yes.
We made things work, yes.
What do you think is one of the greatest achievements with the Concorde, particularly?
Well, there is no just one of the great achievements. You know, we've already mentioned the World Championship, and a couple of years later, we again in Windermere, we broke the world monohull record as well, which we still hold. And Windermere, 4 out of the 5 British records. That was another highlight. And we.
Who did we sell? Did we sell some to some?
We sold, yes, we had an order from in the London motorboat, London Powerboat, sorry, I'll get it right in a minute. In the London Boat Show, we had an Arab prince who came along in his full rig out, Kosygin, Prince Kosygin.
No, was he?
Yeah, he was Kosygin, he was, yes. And he ordered 15 boats, which we duly exported to Oman, and as I understand it, some of them are still operating out there, because we've had some local people who've been out there working, coming back quite amazed that they see Concorde out in Oman. So quite pleased about that. Yeah.
That's the greatest achievement. What do you think was a big turning point with the Concorde? Do you think it was that race where you had to patch up the boat and then move on, or was there other turning points that made it grow?
That wasn't a turning
That was
point,
just the
because
start.
that was the beginning. Yeah,
That was really
that was the
real beginning. Yes.
The fact that we did so well in that race, and so many people came on to us, congratulated the way the boat went and so on, and a few people actually asked us if they could have, you know, shares in the boat, if you like, to help us, because we had nothing. We had nothing, and we refused, and we thought we'd do it ourselves, and this is what we've done. And that first race, I believe, was 1968.
Too far
So
back.
it's a long time ago, and we've, you know, we've done it all ourselves.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there was a time when we hit rock bottom that it was just the two of us. But we still...
There was one
still
incident
kept
that might be worth mentioning. There was a boat called Rondetto, and it was a different one to ours. And he had won the Bristol Grand Prix many times, and he was a top-class driver. And we had a phone call one evening, it was, wasn't it? And it was the driver of this particular boat, Richard Lewis. And he says, can you build me a boat? And of course, a driver of that calibre, he'd never say no. And I said, yeah, well, fine, we'll build you a boat, Richard, no problems at all. And he said, but he said, when do you want it by? Oh, so he wanted for the Bristol Grand Prix, which was less than a fortnight away. So that blind me, and of course we had our production line as well in the workshop at the time, and the orders had to go out, etc. So this boat was sort of over the top, and we never said no. So Sonia and myself went down and we built that boat after workshop hours, and we were down there 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning to build the boat and got it ready. And he picked the boat up, I think it was on the Monday before the Bristol Grand Prix, and he had to set it up then, of course, with his engine and so on. And he raced the Bristol Grand Prix and won his event.
Right.
So that was a bit special.
Yeah, it's a proud moment as well.
Yes,
Oh,
it was a
indeed.
proud moment, yes.
With all the big moments to be proud of, are there any small, maybe people would think of insignificant moments that you are especially proud of with the Concorde?
Well, obviously the people that have won all these events are very complimentary on the boat, and so all in all, between the
Oh yes, I know. What really pleased us was we sold one to this gentleman, and he had it for quite a few years.
that's his research, isn't it?
No.
No? Oh.
And he, it was down at not Saundersfoot, Wiseman's Bridge. He got caught in some nasty weather, didn't he? And
The engine broke down basically,
yes.
and he had his mother-in-law in there as well, who didn't want to go on the boat and she was stuck. So they had to wait for the tide to go out. The boat ended up on the rocks.
On the rocks, yes.
And then of course they got out and went home. They had to leave the boat there, and they tied it to the rock in some way. Following day he goes to collect his boat, and of course the tide had come in and out again. And of course by the time they salvaged the boat,
the
it
hull
was
was
a
in
terrible
a
mess.
terrible state.
So he brought it back. He wanted the same boat back, but with a different hull.
He wanted
The
a
new
new
hull.
hull on the deck, with the
On
same
the
deck.
deck.
Yes.
So but we said, well, the boat wasn't right off us in, but we can build you another one, which we did, and off we went.
Yes,
Happy.
quite happy.
Yeah.
But it was lovely to think that he didn't want to lose his boat. He loved it so much.
Yeah.
He wanted
Okay.
that one.
Do you share the same passion of the boats? Obviously you're there working side by side, long hours with the boats.
Oh yes, we spent a lot of time together.
Concorde boats, or Concorde is us.
Yes, yes,
The man behind the boat and then the woman behind the man.
exactly.
And we work as a team.
Yes. And of course, I used to. I was 7 stone then, wasn't I? I used to race with them.
Just one other little point. I am the first person, certainly in Wales, that have designed, built and driven his own boat to a national championship. My crew in those days was Sonia, because she was only 7 stone dripping wet, and of course that was that was great. We only needed as little ballast as possible, so she did the crew in for me.
So the story with the Aston Martin and the Concorde, could you tell us?
Yes, well, we had a phone call quite out of the blue, really, that Astons were bringing a new car out. Of course, we had an Aston ourselves, so whether that had any link, I don't know, but they liked the shape of the boat, and they wanted to photograph the Aston with passing, if you like, behind the car, the boat on the water, of course, and the car on the beach. And they came down with models and cameras and all the rest of it, and one of these brand new cars, and put them on Pembrokeshire Beach with the boat around the back. And of course, this film was shown in the motor in the motor show at Earls Court the following, well, January show it was, wasn't it? And there was our boat behind the Aston Martin, which was a little bit special.
Yeah.
We could never afford it to have had it.
No.
A flag like that, could we?
Yeah.
Couldn't have paid for it.
Couldn't have paid for it, no.
Now, is there anything else before the camera dies about the Concorde that you'd like to share or like people to know?
It's a difficult one.
It is difficult to sort of isolate any aspect of the book, because it was success from the word go, and it built one success on another, and all in all, must have won basically 40 plus national events, British records, world events, and it was very successful. And we at the time didn't think that it was that important, but of course it is.
Yeah.
And
Because we exported them everywhere, didn't we? We exported quite.
yes, the boats were exported.
Yes.
Yeah, and one little story really that was quite amusing. I remember we had an order at the London at the London show it was, and this fellow wanted us to export a boat for him to Nigeria. So fine, yeah, we'll do that. So we did that. We built the boat. We sent it out to Nigeria. The following year, at the same show, at the London show, this fella came along and he says, came on to me and he says, "I've got a complaint to make." And I thought, "Oh, crumbs, what's this complaint?" And I said, well, what's the problem? "What's the boat is fine," he said, "but the speedo doesn't work." So I said, "Hang on 1 minute." I said, I'll try and get that sorted now. So we went over to Aquamarine, who supplied us with the fittings for the boats, and we said to the manager, the sales manager that was there then, Rob Brown, and I said, "Rob," I said, "I got a complaint. There's a fellow there," told him the story that we sent the boat to Nigeria and he's got a complaint. The speedo doesn't work. So he took the speedo out of the case at the London show, gave it to me, and I took it over and I said, "Well, there we are, look, you have another one." And the fellow was absolutely gobsmacked that we could supply him with a new speedo at a minute's notice. Yeah, that was quite amusing.
But he was thrilled to bits with his.
Oh, I'm delighted with the boat.
Yes.
And coming back to the, this is going back a matter of a few weeks, whereby we came across a person approached us actually, and they said, "You're Lynn and Sonia Dudley?" Yes, Concorde boats. He said, "Yeah." Well, he said, "I bought a Concorde off you," and it must be going back 20 odd years. And he said, I've had to sell it recently." He said, "But we've had fantastic time with it, where the kids loved it, the kids did all their water skiing and everything, and we had the boat for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And he congratulated us for for such a nice boat, and they'd had so much fun with
They'd
it.
had such pleasure out
So,
of it, and they just loved it.
that was very
Yes.
pleasing. And it does give us a little boost.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It makes you quite proud, doesn't it? Our little boat. Yeah.
So, oh, it's